I guess the big question we want is, what is day one in the office? What are you doing? And I know hiring the CAO is like nothing, but what's your first day going to be like? What's the plan?
You know what? We've still got to do the transition planning, and I still have yet to meet with our current mayor. So, the details, to be honest, we're going to be working those out in the coming weeks as we get ready for November 4th. But, I mean, the basic things will be to meet with as many of the civil servants that are working at City Hall to introduce myself and also to meet them, and also, of course, to start mapping out the execution of our 100-day plan and get going on that. And of course, CAO, as I've mentioned, is one. Openness and transparency is another one that I want to move very quickly on. I want there to be a very clear signal to Winnipeggers that I meant what I meant in the campaign on openness and transparency. We've got to shift the culture to one of greater openness and transparency to make your life easier, and for you to hold me to a greater account than you're able to do so with previous administrations.
Now, one of the steps to electing your EPC, if we can move that forward, how soon can that start happening?
You know what? I'm not sure of an exact date, but obviously, it's going to have to be pretty soon. We need an EPC for things to function, and council. I want to make good on my campaign promise. They're going to have a voice in that, and I'll take the recommendation from council and be prepared to work with whomever they elect.
Now we're going to see 7 new councillors.
Yeah.
Is there any councillors that you've had previous dealings with? Like, who are the ones that you're going to be meeting for the first time, and who are the ones that you've been buddies or you've worked with them?
I've been fortunate enough to just have personal friendships through some of my community work with a number of them. Everybody from Jeff Brody to Jenny Gerbasi to Brian Mays. I went to law school with Brian Mays, so he was in first year when I was in third year at U of T Law. So I've known Brian for a while. We got reacquainted when he came back to Winnipeg and got elected to council, and there's a number of really good people there. And the thing that I'm really looking forward to is the fact that there's a good mix of veterans as well as fresh faces, and I think that's a huge opportunity for City Council.
Now, yesterday's win, obviously, no one could have predicted it. How surprised were you? I'm sure you went in thinking, I'm sure you went in hoping you'd win, but did you think you were going to win, and did you think it was going to be by this big of a margin?
We were optimistic that we had momentum. We felt like we had momentum from day one. It was slow and steady because, when we started, I was told today that I had 2% name recognition when I started and 3% in the polls. So, there was never a presumption that, we've got this, ever, even up until when the polls closed. We had 2 speeches drafted for last night. We had a concession speech and a victory speech, and we were optimistic that we had a chance at it, but certainly the size of it was something that I was quite stunned and really humbled by the size of the margin. We felt like there was something really happening in the last few weeks too, and our own internal data showed there was not only consolidation, but we were expanding our tent. And I had said from the beginning, this wasn't a race for the right; it was a race for the confidence of Winnipeggers, and just the size of the numbers, I think, demonstrate that we were able to capture a broad coalition, and then to me that was really satisfying.
A story I'm going to be working on later, maybe tomorrow or over the weekend, is like the anatomy of a win. Like how the heck did Bowman pull this off, right? Yeah. I guess just a few there's other people I'm going to talk to, but from your point of view, what did you guys do? Because clearly the campaign was a success. What did you do that maybe, Judy wasn't doing?
Well, I can't speak to what she was or wasn't doing because I'm not sure of how they're running it, but I can certainly say for us, we had a very clear vision about keeping it as positive as possible. We didn't do negative attack ads or robocalls that were even mentioned any other candidate by name. We didn't put out pamphlets that had pictures of other people on it or billboards. And right from the get-go, my feeling was that Winnipeggers really did want a positive change, and they wanted to embrace a vision and a plan that was forward-looking. And we never really lost sight of that. And I thought, we're going to win or lose on those terms. And if I got to get into the weeds and I got to get nasty with people, if that's what it takes to win, then I don't want to serve as mayor. I want to serve if we can get in with the moral authority of a positive vision. And I'm so proud of Winnipeggers that they were able to take that step with me, and that says more about Winnipeggers than it says about our campaign team.
What about tactics, though?
Yeah.
tactics there?
Well, in terms of tactics, I mean, I think, you know, we had a lot of policy announcements, and part of that was driven by policy platforms that I just really believed in, and I still believe will help move Winnipeg forward. But the other was, I didn't have a lot of name recognition, and you were up against a seasoned candidate who had a formidable machine, and we needed to make sure that you and your colleagues in the media had something to cover to allow us the opportunity to have that earned media to get my name out there and hopefully get it out in a positive way. So we were always intending to be very policy heavy, and then also, of course, the whole branding and marketing of me and our campaign was something that we were very aggressive on social media. We were very aggressive on the ground game, and so the social media was one aspect, but the other aspect was the traditional politics of meeting people in person, going to every forum, going to every area of the city, was something that we were very aggressive with, and so that was something that we didn't want to. We wanted to outwork everybody, and our team. We had a young team, and they just worked really, really hard. And I don't know if we outworked, but I can't imagine any team working harder than we were working.
Who came up with #Momentum?
You know what? I heard earlier today it was one of our supporters. It wasn't something that...
Oh, really?
Yeah, as far as I know, it wasn't something that our communications team came up with. I think it was organic, and it just started. So it was kind of funny last night when everybody was chanting it. I was like... Well, if we did it, well done. It was just fun, you know. It was cool. You know what? The thing is, we really did sense the momentum, and the tracking that we had over the last 2 weeks. We really felt like we had momentum, and we felt like it was growing, and we figured it would, if it was going to take off, it would exponentially take off when we needed it most. Thankfully it did. Mm-hmm. But you know, for us, we just tried to stay the course and be disciplined with the planning that we had at the beginning of the campaign.
Now, you just had a meeting with Premier Salinger?
Yep.
What did you guys talk about?
Well,
first time meeting?
No, we've met before. I mean, we've worked together when I was chair of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, which you've heard many times in the stump speeches. You know, yeah, it was really just a you know, congratulations, and let's see what we can do together. And I'll leave the details of that conversation between us, but it was his invitation. I appreciated it, and I'm looking forward to working with him and our provincial partners. And
who else have you been talking to? Do you have a plan for when you're going to meet with Mayor Cates, or?
You know what? We've communicated by voicemail. I think we're going to be. I'm going to be hoping to connect with him later today, just by phone. Okay. But you know, today was mostly just speaking with the media, and then hopefully getting a good night's rest tonight, and you know, starting to work on the transition planning tomorrow, and then we'll start executing that next week.
Is there anyone else that you you know, have planned to talk to, or you have talked to?
You know, we met with Downtown Winnipeg Biz today. Most other were just media, and a lot of members of the public, just out and about. We've been stopped quite often, and it's been cool to. It's been really cool just to talk to young people. We've had a lot of parents approach us and say that their kids were excited, and in a couple cases they said, you know, my kids were thinking of moving away, and they're staying, and they're really pumped, and they're excited about the future, and that's cool. The challenge for me is to make sure that excitement remains and that optimism remains, and that's something that's a good challenge for a mayor to have.
Now, speaking of kids, you have 2 young children of your own. Being a mayor is pretty heavy job. How do you plan to sort of balance the wife, the kids, the job?
Well, you know, it's always been a balance. I think for Tracy and I mean, Tracy has her own career, and I work really hard to support her. And during the campaign, she ran a marathon in Minneapolis, and I think she may have run 2 or 3 marathons during the campaign, and that's non-negotiable. I have to be home, so she gets her runs in. You know, we juggle like I think most families juggle, and we'll have to continue to do that. You know, one of the biggest challenges during the campaign was the fact that I was working full time up until September. And working full-time and campaigning, Tracy working and running and doing her community work, it was that was tough. And having one job will be great, because I'll be resigning from the partnership at my firm. I don't want there to be any perceptions of conflicts of interest for clients of our firm and for me. And So I'll be able to focus that way. But yeah, well, I mean, I know there'll be a transition period for us, and having that family time is what gives me my grounding. So I'm not going to be an absent dad, and I don't think Winnipeggers would expect that of their mayor.
And something I'm writing about today, I'm like covering 4 different stories of this interview. Severance packages.
Yes.
We're seeing over $400,000 out the door with these councillors that are leaving and the mayor. You've spoken before, but now that you're the mayor, mayor-elect, what's your plan? What can we do about this?
Well, I'll speak to that when I actually am in the position, but it's something that I want to move forward as quickly as possible. We'll obviously have to work with council on. It's something that, if I get my way, it's not going to be retroactive. Families have made budgeting decisions and transition planning based on the current severance packages, but come time the next election, I don't want to see it there, and I think it's offensive to taxpayers, and most Winnipeggers don't get tens of thousands of dollars when they quit a job, and I don't think it should be any difference for politicians who are working for the people.
Now, a little for another story I'm writing about, which is, who is Brian Bowman? We know you're a privacy lawyer. Yeah. We know you went to law school in Toronto. I know you like Van Halen.
Yeah.
What's your favorite book? What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I'm a Star Wars geek. Yeah, and Indiana Jones too. We named our dog Indiana for a reason. I try to stay away from the kind of the date movies. Tracy's into them, and they literally put me to sleep. I like to watch more action. I like to watch more historical ones. I just like to watch. I love movies. So in terms of, was your other question? Books. You know what? I used to read a lot of biographies and things like that. I haven't been doing too much reading other than policy lately, to be honest. It's been a lot of policy stuff and research on municipal matters. I read a book called Winnipeg Now. That was it was a book published through the Winnipeg Art Gallery. That was pretty cool. Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the reading I do, I'll read the cartoons on the weekend. I am a news hack. Like I read the Sun, I read the Free Press, I try to read the Globe, National Post, Metro. I'm obsessive when it comes to reading the news, and I've always been like that since I delivered newspapers when I was 10 years old. I really I'm fascinated with the news, and so it's killed me the last few days that I haven't been able to keep up on the news. Yeah. So I've got some reading to do tonight and tomorrow.